He forgot to mute his mic. That's how my Monday kicked off, eavesdropping on the VP of Operations murmuring to HR, "Just hold tight until the new blood arrives. We'll purge the dead weight." I was right there on the same Zoom grid, 3 squares below. Camera blacked out, mic silenced, fake grin frozen in place. Par for the course. 8 years grinding in that cubicle farm, and I was still the shadow in the server room. The fixer of forgotten filings, the drafter of board resolutions nobody double-checked. The one sweet-talking our lenders' attorneys over Thanksgiving breaks to dodge covenant breaches. But yeah, purge away. Just remember who rubber stamps the liability waivers keeping this circus insured. At Evergreen Dynamics, I was the unassuming pivot point. Not the flashy pivot table in the quarterly deck, not the ironclad NDA, just the subtle mechanism that stopped the whole operation from imploding when the hotshots kicked the door too hard. Every earnings cycle, some suit upstairs would shatter a safeguard, overlook a lender notification on a big acquisition, breach a leverage ratio with a splashy consultant fee, or massage earnings projections to dazzle the investors. And I'd be the one burning the midnight oil, rephrasing legalese, hustling emergency couriers for affidavits, or charming our relationship manager at First National Bank. No gold stars, no holiday bonuses bumped up, but they never pink-slipped me, which in boardroom battles is basically a love letter. Anyway, before I dive deeper, quick ask. I get it, most of you tune into these tales like they're ASMR for the soul-crushed. But if tales of cutthroat corner offices, hidden riders in term sheets, and vindication wrapped in legalese hit the spot, smash that like and maybe subscribe. Fuels the fire, pays the Wi-Fi bill, and lets me unpack the corporate underbelly raw. All right, back in. Truth was, I thrived on being invisible. It carved out space to operate unseen. While the C-suite chased unicorn synergies and moonshot pivots, I forged alliances that stuck. Like Jordan Ellis at First National, lead credit analyst. She warmed to me because I sent her a bottle of Napa Cab on her birthday, and because I didn't hit her up like she was an ATM for overdrafts. She's the one who spotted a covenant loophole in our credit facility 3 years back, averting a full audit cascade. I patched it under the radar, always under the radar. No spotlight chases, no ladder scaling drama. My workstation hunkered 4 desks from the corner view. I stocked the break room with bagels on Wednesdays. I sorted the recycling bins. I noted when the founder's spouse got knee replacement and dispatched orchids from the team, even if the team was clueless. I mapped the true leverage in the footnotes, and I dwelled there. Every subclause, every addendum, every TLDR buried in an exhibit that could torpedo a funding round. I slumbered sound, knowing I was the sole soul who parsed the boilerplate. The founder, Alexander Reed, clocked it. He rarely voiced it, but he'd tip his chin my way now and then. A single acknowledgement. You get the game. He was the archetype of steady hands over spectacle. Bootstrapped evergreen from a garage ledger and a code of ethics into a $150 million revolving line from First National. It was me in the war room with him and the bank's counsel. I scrubbed the term sheet. I slipped in a modest tweak. Continuity provision. It mandated a designated signer, me, for any substantive governance tweak or draw exceeding the cap. Not ego-driven, just reliability baked in. Nobody flagged it. Buried on page 47, section 14B, subpart 3. They inked it, and Alexander stepped down. No ticker tape exit, just a mass outlook blast. One final team donut run, and he was gone. Tweed jacket and all. His son, Brandon, assumed the throne the following Monday. I'd crossed paths with Brandon precisely twice pre-coronation. Once at the summer mixer, arriving 3 hours tardy, yapping about his failed app ventures, and sloshing IPA on my loafers. Once in a demo dry run, where he dubbed my financial model Boomer Bingo. Once when he ambushed me by the Keurig to gripe why his Amex was ghosted in Vegas. Straight talk, No pre-approval form filed. Duh. So when Brandon sauntered into the executive huddle with his fresh-etched CEO placard and declared, "Time to disrupt this dinosaur," I braced. Fresh mops mop fierce, particularly if they've never mucked a stall. He imported a fixer from Silicon Valley, began preaching agile hierarchies and overhead amputations. A director queried on covenant continuity. He brushed it aside. "We've got binders, yeah? We'll pivot a body." I nearly snorted, but just jotted furiously. 48 hours on, he slashed my unit's allocation by 35%. 72 hours later, yanked from the leadership chain. By close of play Friday, HR summoned me. The interim ops chief recited it like a takeout order. "As of now, your role is sunsetted in the efficiency overhaul. Surrender assets. Exit package pending vetting." Brandon loomed rearward, biceps flexed, that entitled smirk he'd honed at whatever Ivy nursery. As I boxed my relics, he bent close. "Earn your keep like Dad did." I zipped it, just exited, carton clutched, lanyard dangling. No farewells echoed, but they'd invoke me sharpish. Brandon oblivious to his old man's scrawl or my fixes, or how indelibly my sig etched the ledgers. He pegged me obsolete. I was the detonator. The week post Alexander Reed's exit unfolded like witnessing a library morph into a rave. Vanished were the subdued beiges, the measured memos, the mutual pact that pauses in briefings signaled reflection, not apathy. Brandon barreled in that Monday like he'd just inked a unicorn round and was primed to shatter entrenched paradigms. Forget that his prior venture flipped from eco-friendly rideshares to blockchain pet trackers before evaporating amid donor regrets. Now he helmed Evergreen. They slotted him into Alexander's sunlit suite, didn't swap the brass plaque till midweek, imported his adjustable workstation, cobalt blue posture throne, and a softbox that turned every Teams feed into an interrogation reel. His inaugural decree, swapping the core values spiel for a graphic that screamed, velocity, vitality, ruthless delivery in caps with lightning bolts. At the kickoff exec powwow, Brandon launched a keynote dubbed Evergreen Unleashed, Forging the Next Trillion. Frame 1, a glossy chess motif. Frame 2, tradition throttles innovation. Frame 3, a dash list. Axe redundancies. Demolish departmental fiefdoms. Revamp legacy risk protocols. Boost productivity per headcount by 250%. I was employee ID 004. Veteran from our bootstrap days in a strip mall suite with flickering fluorescence and a fridge that hummed like a chainsaw. And poof, I was expendable. He skirted my moniker, but each utterance of archaic workflows or millennial millstones or regulatory bloat had his gaze skimming my spot. Composed, impassive, attired like I hadn't just caught my obit in bullet form. The ops director, a headhunter find from a fintech flop slapped with SEC slaps, chimed in on streamlining the pyramid and erasing drag. I probed. "What's the fallback for covenant attestations on the facility?" He faltered. "We'll digitize it." Digitize precisely? A fiduciary endorsement, a provision demanding wet ink proxy. He clammed up, thumbed his tablet. That Friday, Brandon ran an all-hands Q&A. Some bold soul, still anonymous, prodded what fired him up most. His retort, "Shedding excess. Frankly, we've bloated with roles we outgrew eons ago. It's 2025. AI's here. No shade to holdovers, but if your impact's buried, I ain't digging." The hall hushed. "Rest easy," he tacked on. "Equity rules. All get a shot to shine in Evergreen Unleashed." The founder's veteran GC was out by then. Mutual parting, per the blast. The controller bailed prematurely. Our IT lead pursued passions. 4 souls in 7 days. Each vacated bay echoed like awake sawn wreaths. Brandon prowled with AirPods, a kale smoothie, and a perpetual half-grin like he held Insider Alpha. Word was he'd quipped to the new hire he craved apex wolves, not lounge lizards. I wasn't furious, merely drained. You sustain the eye so long till you clock the Gale packs a blowtorch and a vlog. The kicker? Folks bought his pitch. Dread seeped into their stares. VPs who'd once pushed boundaries now bobbed to balderdash. Grunts echoed Brandon's lexicon in teams like mantras. Hustle quotient, disrupt delta, perimeter purity, elasticity ethos, regulatory agility. One soul even laminated his ruthless delivery slide and taped it by the shredder. Yet zero grilled the core queries. What of the credit packs? What if the lender probes continuity and it's AWOL? What befalls when the lone keeper of solvency gets axed? Types like Brandon confound quietude with capitulation. They figure no resistance equals triumph. But I observed, absorbed, amassed. He fixated on projecting prowess, blind to perusing his perch. Alexander had bequeathed him the helm of a vessel engineered by adults. Brandon skipped the dials. He favored flipping toggles, and amid his frenzy of Insta-reels and hype huddles, he blanked a basic. This firm rested on fidelity. Fidelity, unlike crypto cults or hype collages, doesn't swerve. It lapses. Friday dawned altered. Not from sour brew or jammed Xerox. Those were givens. But the vibe hung skewed, as if reality's dialed low, primed for dirge tracks. I signed on at 8:55 a.m., precise. By 8:59, Outlook pinged. Novel slot, HR handover dialogue. No owner, no outline. Mere 9:15 in boardroom C. My gut didn't plummet. It origami folded serene, like a tire stowed for an unbooked jaunt. I entered at 9:13. Deny them early gratification. Brandon lounged by the credenza like hawking a gadget that synced your socks. Opposite perched the fresh ops SVP, Riley, who'd crossed my orbit thrice, twice tipsy. On the slab, a fiberboard crate sharpied Virginia. Botched. Brandon stayed upright. Eleanor! He beamed. Game show slick. We're optimizing. He flourished like conjuring silk from cuff. Outmoded slots, drag coefficients. It's detailed in your forthcoming brief. Riley nudged a craft envelope. Her gaze skimmed mine. I flipped it. 4 folios of corp-speak froth on nimble pivots and slot synergies. Zilch on payout quantum. Nada on the facility. Nil crediting the $300K in solo Covenant crafts, while Brandon jetted to Tahoe last quarter. Immediate effect, she intoned, deliberate. Your role is being sunsetted. Your system privileges have been revoked. We'll circle back on handover docs. I eyed Brandon. He radiated self-satisfaction, like he'd cracked the code on offloading the mousy auditor who nitpicked his expense reports. Then he dropped it. Show me what you meant to Dad. No grin now, pure gauntlet, as if this were poker and I'd folded my flush. Oddly, I held steady. No outburst, no waterworks, no hurled paperweight, no please. I snagged the crate, slotted the dossier inside, rose, lingered at the threshold. You know, I murmured, flicking the faded evergreen emblem on the paneling. The frame's only missed when you yank it down hasty. He blanked. Naturally. His mind was mid-scroll on some viral thread erupting with thumbs-up emojis and fresh org vision mocks. I was merely a line item he'd slashed from his sprint board. I strode the corridor I'd scripted the fire drill for, by the risk bulletins I'd penned, through the access turnstile that flashed crimson over emerald. Lanyard null. 2 admins nuked ramen in the lounge. They glanced like I'd phased through ectoplasm. One mustered a limp thumbs up. I dipped my head, then breached the lobby. No brass band, no farewell mug, no farewell feast like they threw for the sales Veep after 4 years of quota misses from his yacht in Miami. Just me, my haul, and a razor-sharp recall. Page 47, Section 14B, Subpart 3. Upon any substantive fiscal protocol pivot or draw petition beyond the limit, scripted endorsement compulsory from the désigné in Annex C, barring demise or disablement. Annex C. Eleanor R. Whitaker. Not compliance SAR, not delegated proxy, named principal. I surfaced it. I embedded it. I eyed the lender's solicitors nod it, and I watched Alexander Reed double-sign it, once on the Prime Pact, once on the Continuity Rider. They deemed it perfunctory. That provision was my backstop. And Brandon? He'd just sparked his sire's empire with a flimsy crate and a zinger. I hit my sedan, stowed the load in the hold, slid into the driver's perch. Engine dormant, just idled. Then, deliberate, I fished my off-grid dossier from the rear, the one I synced quarterly for contingencies. Packs, codicils, digitized folios with logs, dates, and voila. Page 47, Section 14B, Subpart 3. My moniker, the rider, the endorsers, pristine, operational, ironclad. Brandon hadn't axed the compliance lead. He'd excised the linchpin of a $150 million revolver. And come dawn, the lender anticipated the seasonal covenant confab. With me. Ponder their vibe when the mandated endorser evaporates. Ponder the fallout of my blackout. I crashed sans slumber that eve. No sobs either. Just perched in the hush of my den, the faint whir of the AC slicing the gloom, and commenced hauling folios from the bookcase like diffusing ordnance, 'cause that's what Brandon had wrought. Yanked the lever on a primed shell and lobbed it into the war room, too vain to mark the pin still latched. The fiberboard they'd shoved at me in boardroom C squatted on the counter. My fob, a hole punch, a wilting fern, and a dongle I'd cached in my drawer, the one mirroring every pivotal file I'd touched. Not distrusting Evergreen, but versed in it. By 1:47 a.m., I'd unfurled my 2021-2025 facility dossier across dual screens. Section 14B, Subpart 3, sat pat. Fourth stanza, nested twixt rollover snares and allowable outflow tweaks. The sort of provision overlooked save by the vigilant. A bulwark, a barrier, the persistence clause. It transcended a perfunctory nod from a risk honcho. It pinned my fiat to fund liberations, to ballot clout on CAPEX votes, to the covenant-mandating creditor nod on cadre upheavals. It was precise, premeditated. Alexander slotted it post a savage facility haggle with First National's exposure panel 2 years prior. He summoned me post-closing, pressed a styrofoam Joe into my grip, and intoned, "You're our edge. Let's etch it eternal." I pegged it gracious. He schemed shrewd. Annex C of the Rider Pact printed on firm stock. His flourish, mine, the lender's. It wasn't ritual. It was fused. I glared till the script blurred from prose to portent. This wasn't a prank, wasn't spite, was traction. At 2:59 a.m., I fired a dispatch via private Gmail to Jordan Ellis at First National. Sparse. Query for 45 to Parley at First Light. Appended the provision, tagged Critical Facility Persistence Query, Evergreen Dynamics. Dispatched, lid down, then up anew and tabbed to LinkedIn. Hunt Evergreen's feed. Brandon had dropped a Helmer Hale vid, pecs pumped, feigning foresight afore a stark easel. Legend, thrilled to propel Evergreen into audacious era. Slimmer, swifter, sharper. Let's surge as one. #exec, edge, Evergreen, unleashed. I silenced, snapped, archived to chronology proofs. At 7:22 a.m., Jordan rang Eleanor. Her clip was taut. Zero fluff. Perused your note. I'll feign ignorance till now. You're off their roster, so off books courtesy. Copy, I said. Just affirm. Provision holds? She held 5 ticks. I tallied. Then, affirm. Section 14B, Subpart 3 active. Your ouster sans alert or docket ILS covenant violation. Proceeding sans your script on pulls or growth coinage exposes us. What does that mean for Evergreen? I ventured. It means we halt all action till your clearance is restored, or lawfully bypassed, needing board consensus and a codified tweak. And if they've tendered a draw already? They have. Jordan exhaled. Then the fuse is lit. She needn't spell the peril we both grasped. Lender had 48 hours to vet adherence on queued outflows. Else the conduit iced over. Salaries, suppliers, contractor wires, growth bets, all throttled. Thanks for the loop, I said. One aside, Jordan appended. You engineered that provision, right? With Alexander's green light. She chuckled, edged and wry. Hell, you're sharp. I demurred. Just rang off, reloaded the dossier, commenced assembling my ledger. Dispatches, nods, iteration logs, endorsement trail. Every scrap hyperlinked. I dubbed a dossier persistence bundle and mirrored it across quad sites. Dual drives, one thumb. I pinged a pal in risk advisory. How fast for a bulletproof independent oversight scope? Pronto. By 11:45 a.m., 3 unknowns buzzed. One from the Ops SVP, one HR. The third, Brandon. Hey, hope you're solid. Quick huddle? Minor loan doc query. No rush. No rush. He sensed the quiver, but not the fracture yet. And I? Not wrathful, not jittery, alert. Monday broke with the snap of a breach loading. I skipped the tower. Skipped the dial-in. Off the roster cold. But I gripped the reins. And Brandon, fool, clueless the deck was buckling neath his disruptor kicks. 8:45 a.m. ET. Board powwow queued. Growth blueprint vet. A crisp $60 million yank from the revolver to bankroll iteration 3 of their AI core. Or whatever jargon stew they whipped to woo the VC syndicate. I'd skimmed the exec sum while creds lingered. Tall tab, vague roadmap, nil grip on how woven the guardrails ran. But it boasted VR mocks and a deck with transitions so patently paradigm-shifting. 8:49 a.m. board assembles. Brandon beaming from his airy, groomed crisp charcoal suit snug at the seams. The Ops SVP tweaks his feed. A greenhorn trustee scans notes like a freshman cramming, all poised. Then the feed pings. Marcus Hale, EVP, First National has entered. Marcus is granite. 3 decades in syndicates and sludge Joe. No chit-chat, no mulligans. If he's tuned in, it's to greenlight a mega or break a derailment pre-cliff. Brandon lunges, that salesman zeal oozing. Marcus, stoked you're aboard. Pumped to demo our honed expansion blueprint. Bet you'll dig the trim. Marcus doesn't crack a grin. He peers, hawkish. Scanning the roster, he states deadpan. Glitch here. Brandon stutters. Glitch? Missing my covenant proxy for the revolver. The quiet wasn't mere cringe. It was tectonic. Marcus pressed. Per 2021 revolver terms, Section 14B, Subpart C, any upscale, asset shuffle, or frame flip demands penned and or oral vouch from Annex C designee. No sign of that party. Brandon chortles, frail, frantic. Oh, right, Eleanor Whitaker's off Evergreen payroll. We've folded it domestic. Marcus's stare holds. Annex C cites individual, as in Eleanor R. Whitaker. Unless she's grid-bound, the tiles shuffle, mute reigns. Brandon hacks a cough. We figured the section ceremonial. Bench checked inside. Who at our shop blessed that red? Marcus slices. 'Cause no waiver or tweak petition hit my queue, and I'm the point on this file. The Ops SVP lurches ahead, then halts, likely clocking no upside in sparring the wallet warden reciting writer's rote. Marcus rolls. Drew filings in? Brandon wobbles. Prepped. Yeah. Q1 pipeline hinges on the tranche, squads primed. Marcus's timbre cools a notch, like he's irked, or worse, let down. Pending Eleanor Whitaker's pen-tin nod, or proxy grant. First National shelves the revolver writ large. Upscale coin. Yield resets. Supplier tranches linked to your iteration 3 ledger. He pauses. Crickets. If Whitaker's dark, he tacks. Cue a covenant tribunal. 5-day heads up. Board transcripts. Solicitor scrub. Fresh dockets. Brandon gapes. Marcus nips. I'll linger 8 minutes. If she pops, we roll. Else, stall. Cheers. The feed falls tomb still. You could track the mass hysteria via webcam flush. I tuned out, but pictured it vivid. The rookie CFO spinning in his Aeron, masking dread. The syndicate proxy feigning scrawls while DMing counsel underdesk. The chair, mandible locked like a vice. Brandon slicking through his bespoke Oxford, glaring ops SVP. How'd this slip? Me? Lounging in my loft, nursing oolong, tracing sunbeams on the parquet. My cell hummed. Unlisted. Hi, Eleanor. It's Taylor from Evergreen Council. Fast query on vintage packs. Free this PM? I ghosted. Let 'em marinate. They craved lean. Now they tasted atrophy. The conduit iced Tuesday. No blast memo. No scarlet alert on the intranet. Just a creeping hemorrhage of alarm, veiled by upbeat Asana updates and hushed huddles in alcoves. The iteration 3 launch, Brandon's darling diadem, slammed a berm, sans gear to scale. First tell, innocuous. A supply requisition tagged awaiting auth, then duplicates. By lunch, a dev piped in, hat tech triage. Others hitting stalled requees. Need cables, nada. A newbie fired a gif. 0 chuckles. By Wednesday dawn, leaks sprung. Marcus Hale and First National's crew had locked the revolver cold. The $60 million growth tranche iced. The monthly float for ops liquidity deferred till covenant cure. Supplier wires, wrote as sunrise, now craved bespoke waivers, jargon for nobody's cleared to budge till the snags snipped. But the snag was me, or rather, my void. Brandon spun it soft at first. To the trustees. Brief glitch in legacy perms. Realigning access. Then framework mismatch. Then vendor-side foul. Each flimsier. Reality. They couldn't breach the vault. The creditor's portal spurned proxies absent mine. Or a writer rewrite demanding trustee tally, solicitor sign-off. Chiefly, my buy-in. And I? Muted. Line dark. Mail barren. Alerts axed. My LinkedIn? Pulsing. Eleanor R. Whitaker. Freelance risk navigator. Covenant continuity architect. Counsel on high-wire facilities. Header snap. Mist-shrouded ridge at sunrise. Locale. Denver CO. Badge. Open for curated advisory ties. The masthead sufficed to spike pulses in 3/4 of the brass. I'd refreshed it at 4:15 a.m. Tuesday. By Vespers, 1,200. Peaks, scattered nods. A discreet DM from a trustee I'd once banked on. Eleanor, off-record parley? I blanked. Within Evergreen, cogs seized sans lube. Solicitors scrambled. The deputy GC choppered back from Telluride. Buzz was he stormed the suite, sun shedding his parka. Minutes later, a cascade of tagged alerts. Priority hold, risk lock, supplier deals ricocheted with suspend stamps. AP blacked out. Pay cycles teetered. Delay checks a shift, and morale craters. By Thursday, HR fielded frenzy from unit heads. Dev chiefs queried why licenses lagged. Creative couldn't slate freelancers for the Q2 blitz. Even the HVAC crew pinged a cutoff threat sans their chit by EOD. Brandon frayed. He rang Marcus thrice Wednesday. Voicemails, texts, stonewalled. Then me. Mail, mobile, even a Teams ping I wasn't looped on, bless his heart. Had Riley from Ops float a casual brew on Calendly. Archived. Meantime, I spun a pitch packet, not for Evergreen, for rivals. 4 inquiries post-profile pop. One dangled a red-eye to Austin for a strategy summit on embedded safeguards. No locks yet, but the serendipity savored. Brandon still stonewalled the trustees on the crux, aiming to caulk the breach covert, stem the tide pre-flood. But the trustees probed now. Sharp. Who greenlit the cadre cull sans rider scan? Solicitor looped pre-slot sunset? Where's the covenant dodge? And my fave, if this pivot's so pivotal, why excise her? They'd corralled into a cul-de-sac, sketched me the blueprint to bolt. All pending my vigil. 'Cause hush ain't frailty. It's the din of a firm fathoming it acts the sole buttress on the levee, and fissures fanned. The ring hit 7:13 p.m. Friday, sun sinking over the Safeway sprawl beyond my pane. Initial bourbon pebble thawed. Masked caller. I near swiped ignore, but instinct whispered not Brandon. I clicked. Eleanor. Timbre grave. Wary. Masculine. I pegged it pre-tag. It's Nolan. Nolan Barrett, trustee vet. One of few Alexandered loose near live wires. Classic thread count even on feed. Ex-overseer of exposure at a Midwest lender. Eased into oversight and Scotch samplings. Trust I'm not poaching. Hit your mail. Get your decompressing. I neither owned nor nixed, just held. He rasped, a throat clear. Unofficial. No board proxy. Yet. But I need the lowdown on the facility snag. Quiz your chief. I clipped. Did. Got Ted vibes on trust leaps. That coaxed my inaugural grin in a week. He rolled. Eleanor clocked heaps of hash in my day, but never a creditor clamp a 150 mil line sans flare. They're not steamed, precise. That quietude spells one. Self-shield, so we botched. Still, I stone. Then the pivot phrase. I clock the rider. 4 beats. Section 14B, Subpart 3, Annex C. I yanked the pristine pact. Alexander wired it to you, I vented nasal steady. Yes, at last. And the shop baked it post-ink. No grace, anchor deep. Reckoned, he said. So the outfit's iced, wages wobbling, and nary a clue how to thaw sans the dame we bundled off with a bin of sticky notes. I held. Let void wield. I aim to mend, Nolan said, but need your lens on the footing. What precise play did Alexander run pre-bow? I laid ground rules. One sit-down, but solely with counsel and chair and frame. Nolan yielded, no pushback, just assented over line like foreseen. I'll tee it. Monday a.m., remote or bricks? Bricks, I clipped. Midtown Solicitor's Den. Timestamp all. Roger. I cut, tabbed my persistence bundle. 28 artifacts. Prime inked revolver with Annex C rider. Chain from Alexander. Slot Eleanor on Annex. Iron. PDF of endorsement cascade. Jordan's tick by mine. House note. I'd drafted on rider fallout. Dated. Finessed by ex-treasurer. Capture of my evergreen D-access with log. I zipped it, pass-locked the pack. Then spun a crisp mail to Nolan Barrett. Header. Per request. Docs. Facility persistence. Nolan, enclosed. Outline of Section 14B, Subpart 3 posture under Evergreen First National Revolver. Prep for Monday confab. Regards, Eleanor R. Whitaker, Indie Risk Steward. Sent. Cell thrummed 20 sex post. Fresh mail from House Legal. Priority confab. Reiki. Rider dialogue. Ignored. Instead, reclined. Nursed bourbon dregs. Gazed as taillights flickered in the plaza like fading flares. They craved my return, but not peon, not relic. Now I was the front they bartered, and I'd tote the squall bulletin. The war room reeked of aged oak and anxious brine. Frosted panes, mahogany slab, untouched decanter. Midtown 12th deck, turf neutral, Barrett and Klein PC. They'd weathered uglier clashes here, sure, but this hummed a subdued peril sans shouts. I strode solo. No posse, no brief at flank, just a sleek obsidian binder tucked, and the tacit heft of a stalled enterprise. Opposite, Nolan Barrett, grave yet dialed. The chair, Lydia Voss, pristine in slate sheath, mouth aseam like mid-regret. House GC perched 3 chairs off, pecking prelims pre-kick. And at the terminus, limbs barred, straining not to fray. Brandon. He aged a decade in days. Bags or the toll of covenant crash unpacked. None hailed. I claimed seat, cracked binder, drew 1 folio. This, I stated, gliding it forth, my stipends. No flair, no histrionics. Same timbre I'd wielded nixing travel claims in crunch. Lydia snatched, scanned mute. No flair, no slack, but the poise in her frame spilled it. She spied the snare, knew it sealed. Nolan craned to peer. Even Brandon perked, straining for a peek. Stipends for reinstall. Eleanor R. Whitaker, reinstall as chief risk pivot. Chain. Straight to trustees. CEO blind. Purview. Total grip on risk weave. Creditor chats. House rule stamps. Span. Locked 42-month hold. No acts sans trustee supermajority and lender okay. Fee tabled apart. CPI tied yearly. House blast. Evergreen memo flagging shift to pivot advisory. That tail wasn't strut. Signal to creditor, foes, bazaar. Not re-entry. Ascent. Lydia laid sheet, laced digits, fixed Brandon. Nil utter, nil twitch, just void. Brandon's mouth cracked like to protest, but hush held. He flicked GC Ward, questing succor, but they poured my Eve dispatch. The rider, endorsement loop, his axe son rider vet trail, the sort that could have graced docket if I'd swung sharper. He gulped, dropped gaze. Nolan broke. Eleanor, if we ink this, how swift to ping First National. I held gaze. Cleared Jordan. She's cued. Instant I badge official, the clamp cracks. Another pulse. Lydia drummed sheet thrice, arbiter cue. GC. The suit dipped slow. Rider solid, her slot primal to pact. Axe son ear stamp non-kosher. Plain, you flouted, prayed blind. Lydia skipped Brandon's take, unneeded. Turned meward. Will ink as is. Trustee badges live in 90. HR scribes pack today. Then, sans barb. More? I dipped once. Addendum. Log tweaked. My exit books as advisory handoff, not axe. House slate mirrors persistence, not rift. Nolan quirked a ghost grin. Brandon mimed choking gravel. Concur. Lydia. I rose, snagged binder. No crow, no leer, no valediction, just poised lucidity. 'Cause the gale wasn't reclaim. Gale was etching I'd never shipped light. And now, not plaque script, the writer they'd ne'er gloss. Monday, 8:45 a.m. Ident slot, ident title, trustee blueprint vet, iteration 3 nod. But vibe skewed, strained, spring-loaded, like the outfit held lungful of fortnight. Unsure exhale sans self-sabotage. Full roster, Lydia, Nolan, GC, extern scribe, 4 ANSI trustees. The fresh CFO, unshorn since Tuesday. And Brandon gridcore yet galaxies off. Then me, prime tile pair. Eleanor R. Whitaker, chief risk pivot. No horns, no cue, just tag, live, indelible. At 8:46, feed chimes anew. Marcus Hale, EVP, First National enters. Room chill plunged 15 degrees. Marcus cams up. Same stoic glower, Oxford knot, specs perched nose tip. He swept the grid mute for ticks, then locked on mine via feed. Nodded singular. Prime, he voiced. Now, forward. Quint words, and the trustee corps deflated collective. Brandon strained stoic, but the mandible tick betrayed. He cracked lips, perchance to reclaim turf, but Lydia preempted slick. "Eleanor," she flowed, "you've vetted the risk brief and refreshed cap frame?" "Affirm," I returned. "Syncs with rider bounds, contingent on post-tally filings and all tranche bids, flaglender alert, 48 hours pre-go." Marcus slotted. "Suits our side." Nolan tipped. "Eyes for iteration 3 tranche under honed risk helm?" Digits rose. E-votes ticked. Unanimous bar, Brandon. Lydia bypassed query. Tally cleared. Lawful, framed, broadcast. Marcus quirked curt. Revolver thaw by close, no flux. Unsaid, no capers, no hacks, and zilch, Brandon brandishing blade blunt. Call wrapped, Brandon lingered grit a beat overlong, glaring cam like miscast in farce. Then black. I tarried brief to catch the wake. The CFO hunched, hammering, likely thawing scores of queued ops. Nolan huffed soft. "Stoked you're aboard, Eleanor." Lydia layered. "Beyond stoked. Vital." I dipped. Tabbed exit. Back in my airy, I eased the deck shut tender. Glass mirrored dawn like honed edge. Rose, decanted Joe neat, let quiet reclaim. Now not banish, but command. They pegged me drudgery, codex tail, relic rung. But I was the precondition unread, the rider unparsed, the tag scrubbed premature. They bid prove worth. I did, in scarlet script on a trust revolver rider they'd skimmed slack. Thanks for riding the cubicle gauntlet, you break room buccaneers. Subscribe for fresh farce. Let's spill your ex-boss's latte in terror.